Welcome back to part 2 of our ranking 50 plus ideas for FM24 and beyond. Let's jump right back in. Next up was an idea from FM Projects, and it is a skilled tree for qualifications. I really quite like this one. I think there should be a little bit more decision-based order to what qualifications you go after next, not just that this is the next one available to you, go for that one. So when you're getting your badges, maybe it would be better if you learnt different languages, as to FM Projects' idea. It was a really good one, I think. I'm going to stick it in FM 25 to 27, and I'm going to put it in the C category. Next up, training player relationships. So this is one of our ideas. I think it can come now. I'm going to stick it in the B category for FM 24. That is that you smash two players together in your training, where you'd normally have individual training focuses like shooting or passing or off the ball. You should be able to put two players together and say, I want you to get on, just work on 1-2s. They should have training player relationships. Next is more control over the income and expenditure. So your travel budget, your ticket prices, these kind of things can have a huge knock-on effect financially. And I'm going to say, so I'm going to put that in A for FM 25 to 27. We're running out of space in that box. But yeah, that's something that I think we certainly should have more control over. Next is customizable flags on the squad planner. So this featured in another one of our videos. I don't really rate the squad planner, so I don't care if this gets implemented. I'm going to therefore stick it in F. But essentially, its current flaw, I think, is that you can't put quick flags that are completely customizable on your squad planner. Next up is the manager altercations. So I would love a Tuchel versus Conte style handshake option. I've had a few altercations in the press with Maurizio Sarri in my recent Valencia save, and I think this would just be extra fun for Football Manager to have, and I'm actually going to say it's an S tier idea in the FM 25 to 27 space. Similarly, punditry disputes. So I'd like to fall out with pundits, and I'm going to put that in there as well. Next is voting on regulations. So when a new change comes to the pitch, and you get the email saying this is your new set of rules for the season ahead, you should have beforehand a set of voting options, and you could essentially become, even long into your career, maybe you're seen as the new Arsene Wenger and you're suggesting ideas for how they take the game forward. I think this one is way into the future, because I think we need to have a good amount of things that would enhance the game added in first, and probably the use of AI being in there. Next is one of our own ideas again. It's teach your assistant manager to answer like you, and I think that's probably our best idea, so I'm going to stick that in the A category of FM24. All this is that they need to have an option where you bring your assistant manager along to press conferences. Then after a year or a year and a half, depending on how good you are and they are, they will understand how you answer every question that you get asked time and time again. And this would create another reason to stick with an assistant manager and build a coaching team that you can take with you if you move from club to club. Because otherwise you'd have to start that process again. And I think this would resolve the issue that exists with Football Manager, that the amount of press conferences that you get when you are 5 or 6 seasons into your save just become a bit dull. Emphasis on cultural differences. So this is an interesting one, and I think it kind of plays to the spend your wages / lifestyle choices idea from that was from P-Dubs, and I think FM Projects had a very similar understanding that essentially your manager should have different challenges based on how different the culture is between where you are and where you're from, or where you are now versus where you've previously managed. AI use in interactions. So again, I feel like AI is a bit further away than FM24, although ChatGPT and all of the likes are kind of up and coming. I'm going to stick it in the FM28 box, and I'm going to stick it in B, because I think it's definitely one I want to see integrated. I think it's an exciting prospect, but I'm not 100% clear if it's the right prospect. Okay, next up we have time between matches being more choice-based. I do understand that it can be quite annoying when you haven't got time between matches, like you have 3 or 4 days in between matches only, and one of those is recovery, one of those is like match preview time, and you actually it's coming at you thick and fast. But in terms of how this can be enhanced, I think the only thing you really have to settle is kind of what time of day you're starting training and finishing training, and what kind of transport maybe that you're taking to and from if you are travelling for either of those matches. So there's not a lot to do in between those really tight spaces of time. I think it can be enhanced, but I don't think it's the most essential or the most amazing idea. Next up, we've got the system to gauge your manager's happiness. So I think essentially what I'm talking about here is the idea that there's a system that you fill in, or a survey that you fill in that's completely anonymized. So you can have essentially you'll say privately to the board that you're not particularly happy with the way that the club is being supported by them, and I think it would be interesting as well to see surveys about you from your coaching staff and your players. So it's just some qualitative analysis essentially that helps you understand if you're doing a good job by your colleagues. So I think it's probably not the most essential, and it's nothing that I need to see soon, but it is another idea. The next one up is sending subs on to warm up. So this is, I think, a really easy one to implement for Sports Interactive, and the way that this will affect your team is essentially where you currently have teams or players in your squad on your bench who are nervous or who lack a little bit of sharpness. I think they could get a bump to those things by being sent to warm up minutes before they actually get sent on. So I would love to see, it happens in real life, I'd love to see Sports Interactive offering us this option wherein we can better prepare for a substitution in a match and get better results from the players we're sending on by warming them up first. The next up is shouting at the ref. I think it would be a bad idea to implement this one because essentially it's perpetuating a problem in football, but it does happen in football and I do quite like the idea of it. I'm going to stick it in C and for FM 25 to 27. It's a funny thing. It kind of goes hand in hand with the next thing, which is referee disputes, which I think can exist basically slightly cleaner than the shouting at the ref. So I'm going to stick it in FM 24 and in the C box. And I think where you have referees that you've had before that haven't given you decisions, or that you have criticised in post-match reviews, I would like to see a individual level basis of a dispute between referees and managers. Not necessarily on a similar note, but a public apology is something else I think would make the game a little bit easier. If you've made a mistake with a player, or if you've said something that you misclicked in a press conference, you should be able to say, sorry, I said the wrong thing, or I'm sorry, I broke my promise, etc. And I think going public with something like that should give you a good amount of humility and hopefully resolve any of the disputes that exist. So again, absolutely not essential, and probably something that can be easily implemented. I'm actually going to stick it in between the border of FM 24 and 25. If you are shouting at the ref and they do implement that, I would love to see bookings and sending offs for managers. So this is probably not something that's going to come in FM 24. It's going to be something that I'm going to stick in that B category here though, and I think that bookings and sendings off for a manager, they happen a lot more in real life than you'd imagine. Particularly, let's just take the Europa League final. That had enough bookings on the bench to shake a stick at. So I think there's plenty that can be done in that space of touchline behaviour of manager, meaning you either get fines or sendings off or disputes and altercations. Next up, we've got actual commentary. So obviously we all get the video commentary, the kind of scripting that goes along the screen very fast if you play Football Manager like me. But I would love to see, I think, in the very, very distant future, a really strong commentary game to really build into the aesthetics of the game overall. And the audio has got better. We've got the licensing for Champions League and Europa League, and the music is in the game as well. And I just think we're not too far off having audio commentary added to the game. So I'm going to stick it in C, but it's probably one for FM28 and beyond. Points deductions. So I've never seen a points deduction in Football Manager. I'm not sure if they currently exist, but they've happened in this year's Serie A and in the Championship, I believe. I think Reading got relegated because of a points deduction, which is quite a shame. It's not an essential, and I don't think it's something that would happen to your club again, because I think you'd know, you'd spot the problems as they were happening and you'd resolve them. But I think mismanagement should exist more in other clubs, in rivals and other teams in your leagues, and I do want to see some more of that. So please bring that into the game, Sports Interactive. I'm sticking it in FM24. Next up, we've got camera angles and on the player. So this is an interesting one. I think it's really similar to my other camera angles idea of just moving around in general, but this is one that you can actually just track the player on. I'm going to stick that in the E category for FM25. Graphics engines fixes, that's going to be up here. So that is things that happen that kind of cause a kind of controversy or glitch maybe with how the match engine's running. It could be that there's an offside that shouldn't have been given as offside, but ultimately I'd like to see the graphics engine fixes being put in. And on a very similar sense, more animations. So this is for FM24 and it's an A idea. A lot of people talking about animations and how we view things like tricks and dribbling. I think it's got a lot better in FM23 than it was in FM, let's say 21, but it doesn't feel like it was a step on enough from FM22. So I'd like to see more animations added in there. And last but not least, we've got Zealand's idea of lower predictability of VAR and offside calls. I definitely think that that's an essential. I haven't got a lot of space, but I'm going to stick it in the B category here, and that is essentially that when you see an offside call currently, or when something's going to VAR and you're wondering whether or not it will or won't be a penalty, you can almost always guarantee after a month of playing that you know how the game deals with these situations, and you know something's going to be given or it's not. And I'd love to see a little bit more delay as well when a VAR call comes through. So sometimes I'll say that looked like it could be a penalty, and unless it's immediately resolved by the game there and then, it's just we move on. In real life, you'd play maybe a minute and a half, and you'd get fourth official will give a note to the referee to say, look, you need to have a look at this. That kind of stuff doesn't exist in the game yet, so I do think that the predictability of VAR is not as unpredictable as it is in real life. There we have more than 50 ideas ranked by essentialness to time to implement for the next 4 or 5 Football Manager games. Let me know in the comments if you've got any other ideas or what else you'd like to see in a sooner installation of this game. But hopefully that's been fun for you guys, and until next time, adios.